Hey everybody, it's dqtattoos back with another video for you this Friday today. If you saw my video from Wednesday that I posted, I've had some technical hiccups, but I still wanted to get something out for you guys, and I think it turned out pretty decent. So today we're going to be going over the different types of supplies that I have used and what my favorite ones are as far as doing my line art for my tattoo flash. So stick around and we'll get into it. I'm going to go over the pros and cons of each one, and then overall what I like to use best. So we'll see in just a minute. Alright, so here you can see we've got several different options of different tools that you can use for doing your tattoo flash line art with before you start your painting. Here I've got some Copic multi-liners. I've got some Pigment Micron pens. And I've got some fine point and ultra fine point Sharpies. So, Copic multi-liners, these are great because they are refillable. You can replace the nibs, and they are permanent ink, meaning that you can do your line art before you paint and they will not smear or bleed. One thing I don't like about these is, to me, the nibs are a little too delicate for the rough texture of watercolor paper. It's great that you can replace them, but that's not something I want to mess with. And they just tend to tear up a little too easily. Another advantage is they do come in a lot of different sizes, but for me personally, the 0.7 is the main one that I would use, and it is even not as thick as I would like it to be. So those are the Copic multi-liners. Then we have the Pigment Microns. Now, a disadvantage to these versus the Copics is you cannot replace the nibs, and they are not refillable. However, they do come in a very large variety of sizes and styles. You can also get them in the brush or graphic pen variety. You can also get brush pens with the multi-liners. I like these a little bit better because they go all the way up to 0.8, which the Copic multi-liners do not, as far as I'm aware. And I think the nibs hold up better on watercolor paper. So I tend to use these. At this point, if I need a new pen, I just go buy the one that I need. I will not buy the whole set probably ever again because I don't use most of them. But it's great that you can go pick up an individual pen. These also come in a variety of different colors if you want to use something other than black, but for me, I usually just stick to black. Alright, next up we have the Sharpies. I love the fine point Sharpies. I use these are just plain regular Sharpies. I use these for my bold outlines on the majority of my flash work. They are fantastic. They are waterproof, so you can line with them before you paint and they will not smudge or bleed. The ultra fine point Sharpies, these are good too. These work to me just as good as the 0.8 microns, but again, I think the tips of the microns hold up a lot better over time. So they are preferred, but in a pinch, an ultra fine tip Sharpie will work just fine. So there we have it for the pens. These are great. These are all great because they're pretty much like plug and play, I guess you could say. I mean, they're ready to go. You just take the cap off and you start going. There's not a big learning curve to them. They're pretty easy to come by, especially the Sharpies. And you can't go wrong with any of these. Now we'll go on to a couple of different options, things that I've seen other people use. First up, we've got our Nibs and Nib Holders. And the nibs are cool because they come in a variety of different styles. Go ahead and get some of those out. You've got just the regular nibs, where the harder you press down, the wider they get. So you can kind of see with this one there is a split in the tip, and when you push down it splits open, so that will make it wider, so you can get very fine lines or much wider lines. Then I've got like this B5 tip here that is just one thickness. And this B5, it took me a while to find, but it's about as thick as a Sharpie line. So if you can use these with your ink, which I've got some Higgins Ink here. This is a waterproof ink that you can use before you paint. If you get the hang of doing that, I've seen them come out very nice. I haven't practiced enough with it, so I'm not all that great. but I do plan on using those more, and they are a lot of fun, but there's kind of a steep learning curve to that. Alright, and then finally you've got your actual brushes, and I've got tons of different brushes here, and that's one good thing about brushes. I mean, you have so many different styles. These right here are actual liner brushes. So as you can see, they're very long bristled, and they're pretty much the same width all the way down. And these are really nice because you can pretty much use the same pressure. They're good for curves and stuff like that. But again, there's a bit of a learning curve to using these. What I've seen so far with using a liner brush is you get a really fine point when you start your line, and I want the start of my line to be as thick as the entire line. I don't want to go back over top of that. So maybe that's just something I'm not quite used to yet, but I will definitely practice with that more. And then, like the Higgins inks, you have several other inks. I've got some Hydrus Carbon Black, some Bombay Black India ink, and some Dr. P.H. Martin's Black Star Matte India ink. Now, with these, India inks, as far as I'm aware, are always permanent waterproof inks. I could be wrong, but these both are. So you can do your line art with these before you paint, and it'll be just fine. If you only have the Carbon Black Hydrus watercolors, this is not permanent. Okay, if you go over this with water, it will pull that black into your colors and it will thin it out. So if you plan on doing your line art with a non-permanent ink or marker, you need to wait until the end of your painting and wait till everything is dry and then do that at the very last. I don't really like to work that way. That's kind of backwards for me, so I would not do it that way. So again, there are several different options. What I use a Sharpie for my thick lines. I use a Pigment Micron 08 for my fine lines. I typically do not require very much more variance outside of those two thicknesses, but yeah, that's what works for me. Oh yeah, one final option, and I didn't really discuss it. Let's see, I've got a few. These are brush pens. Copic makes brush pens as well, and these are kind of specific to liners. So here's the Copic one. Let's see, I've got some other brush pens here. I don't really know the brand of this one. I got it from Hobby Lobby. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun to use. Let's see, I think I've also got some Tombow brush pens. Brush pens are really cool because, like using a regular brush or even the nibs here that change based on the amount of pressure, that's how they work. You put more pressure down, your line gets thicker. You use less pressure, you have a thinner line. That's pretty neat, and it works good for more stylized art, I would say, like more illustrative or even Japanese style, where you do have a lot of varying line weights and they make very smooth transitions. So if that's the kind of stuff you're into, definitely try out some brush pens. I don't do a whole lot of that stuff, so I just stick with my Sharpie and my Pigment Micron pen. If you guys have any suggestions of different pens to use, please leave me a comment down below of what you use, what you like or don't like, just different things that I could try. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know of anybody else that might enjoy watching this video, please share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Wednesday, usually every Wednesday at noon, unless I have technical difficulties like I had this week. That is it for today. We will see you next week for a new video. Have a good one.